been an extremely anxious week. As we all know, we've got our Newzroom Afrika reporter who is standing by, Nqobile Madlala, in Gauteng to just bring us up to speed with exactly what the numbers are looking like currently at the moment. But for now, my colleague Iman Rapeti is joining us from Midrand at the official IEC ROC, which is the Results Operations Center. Iman. All right. So as ballot counting continues in South Africa's national general elections, top of mind for Gauteng people is who will govern the country's economic hub. This is a big deal because parties have also started to arrive at the provincial results center, wanting to just keep track of those numbers and just see exactly minute by minute how that's going to go. Newzroom Afrika's Nqobile Madlala is joining us now. And of course, right now, the DA is in the lead in Gauteng with 33.8%. Of course, it's early days. With the election results expected to come through finally officially on the 2nd of June. But Nqobile, give us an update on the current status of the Gauteng province.
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Chabas, that Gauteng is known to be the powerhouse, so it's going to be hotly contested, of course, after KZN. But what we're seeing with the numbers already trickling in, people have been standing in this regional ballot and also looking at the provincial ballot. So a lot of people have been looking at the numbers. And of course, you can see the margins between DA as well as ANC very close. But of course, a lot of people are just still saying here that it's still early days. They're yet to see exactly what will happen. We saw this in 2019 and it's repeating itself. One of the smallest provinces, but the largest economy. So I want to bring in the election observers, of course, because they were observing as it was the elections were taking place on the ground. I can tell you that last night we were here in Ekurhuleni, and of course it was very difficult for many people to vote, and they were taking it quite hard after 9 o'clock when they hadn't voted. What did you notice?
Thank you, Nqobile, for having us as Defender of Democracy observers. Yeah, Gauteng, for us especially, people got a little bit agitated because of the VMD scanners were not working, and that led to long queues. But at the end of the day, everyone ended up casting the vote, as was stated by the IEC. That they would open their doors until the last person cast the vote. So, yeah, that's what we observe as well. There was, of course, the people wanted to storm the voting station, as far as I remember. But however, they were managed, and everyone voted. And we have just realized that across the Gauteng itself, most of the voting stations closed, especially those who closed after 9. They closed it around 11, 12, some of, yes, and the counting had to start until around, when we were still talking to some of our observers in our voting stations, especially in the south of Johannesburg, people counted until around 8 o'clock this morning.
And of course, as people that were on the ground, do you feel that it was correctly done?
Except the glitches, you know, the VMD scanners collapsing that system led to a lot of things, leading to long queues, and of course, it's also leading to people being impatient, and eventually everyone voted, but it was not a good sign. We know IEC for running the best results, I think, in the continent. But I think on this one, they were caught off guard. I'm not sure whether it was because of that they did not expect the turnout, or it was the competence of their staff.
All right, thank you very much for speaking to us. That's, of course, the observers on the ground who have noted what was happening in terms of the elections. Malungelo?
Nqobile, thank you very much. We're live for you from the Eastern Cape Results Centre in East London. This is where really all the results that are coming in from the over 4,000 voting stations are captured here and then sent to the IEC Results Centre in Midrand. That's where Iman Rapeti and some of my colleagues are. But I want to bring into the conversation Kagazi Makudumana, who's the Provincial Electoral Officer here in the Eastern Cape. How did things go yesterday for you? Because there were some issues in Keiskammahoek where people there, in fact, that's where I spent most of my time yesterday, people there were saying that they're not going to vote. But did people actually end up voting?
Yes, there are 54 voters that did vote in that station. You'll remember that we're not even expecting anyone to go in because the community members were actually sitting outside that voting station. And that alone we thought, well, people might be intimidated and decide to stay away. But there's 58 voters that actually voted.
The picture in the province, how does it look like? How does it look like in terms of the challenges and just people coming out to vote? We spent also time in Mdantsane and we also moved around here in East London. There were still long queues at night.
There were long queues. There were long queues everywhere, not necessarily in the Eastern Cape. And I think we're going to have a very good voter turnout. But as a commission, I think we need to do more. We need to have an analysis as to how can we improve. I mean, election day is a public holiday. So we cannot just have people that spend a public holiday in a long queue just for voting. And I must say that we are proud of the South Africans because they actually were patient. They waited there till night. And the worst case scenarios for the province was in KSD, that is King Sabalantalingyebo, in BCM, some of the stations like the Orient Theatre, and many stations in Nelson Mandela Bay. But what we did after 3 p.m. when we realized that, you know what, this thing is just going to have problems for voters when it starts getting dark. We recalled everybody that was supposed to actually be in the stations to assist with the voting process to actually report in the stations much earlier, and that caused a huge difference.
I want you to quickly touch on the issue at Walter Sisulu University in Mthatha. You were concerned at first, and that concerns were allayed?
But you remember that that is a voting station. And there are 2,742 registrants in that voting station, and the majority of them are students. And during the years, we actually do registration campaigns in all tertiary institutions. And most tertiary institutions in the province are actually voting stations. So that to encourage youth and not for them to be discouraged that the voting station is a bit far from them. So it was a concern. I'm happy that the eviction order was actually reversed and the students were able to cast their votes yesterday, and there were no incidents at all.
Thank you so much. Kagazi Makudumana there. She is the Provincial Electoral Officer here in the Eastern Cape. I'll tell you, the picture does look interesting when you look into the leaderboard, because I've also seen MK really already on the votes that have already been captured and counted. MK in the Eastern Cape has over 1,000 votes already registered on that leaderboard. The UDM has got about, over 3,000. But of course, as expected, the ANC is leading the pack.
All right. Thank you so much, Malungelo.